So, hello and welcome back yet again to me recapping a chapter and hoping that I can actually get this one done before I completely pass out. No, I'll be fine. I am edging on a food coma though, because today was the day that my two neighbors, who are absolute wonderful, fantastic people, and me, it was me, my next door neighbor, the neighbor two doors down, that neighbor's kid and partner, and then my next door neighbor's brother and sister-in-law, all getting together and all cooking and eating and just having a lovely afternoon. It was wonderful. I successfully was able to eat brisket, which, let's just all take a moment to celebrate the fact that these fake teeth are coming in clutch. I was able to eat two beautiful slices of brisket. It was delicious. I have had beef since I got my teeth done, but it's always been ground. So I've had hamburger, but this was my first actual full-on slice of meat. Granted, it was brisket that had been smoked for like 12 hours, so it was just really tender and absolutely delicious. I made garlic parmesan roasted potatoes with a sour cream garnish. Those came out really good. I need to remember and do those more often because they were also delicious. Um, Another neighbor made baked beans mixed with sausage that was also smoked. That was really, really good. I had to pick my way around the green pepper and onion because that's just not a me thing, but the beans themselves tasted wonderful. And I think there was green beans and biscuits, and my neighbor's husband made cookies. It was really, really good. I probably ate too much, and I don't even really think I ate too much. I had two slices of the brisket. Oh, that was so good. I had potatoes and sour cream and cookies and a biscuit, and it was wonderful. I am very full now, and I am ready for my food coma now, please. But then it hit me that I still hadn't done the chapter recap. I had gone through the chapter, marked out different little quotes that I wanted to be sure to hit on, and kind of outlined it in my head, but I hadn't actually recorded it yet. And you know, um, I've gotten used to this whole uploading twice a day thing, and I'd like to keep it rolling if I can, but oh my goodness, it's been a little bit harder lately. Not impossible though. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Eating is one of the great pleasures in life, and eating with good friends is also one of the great pleasures in life. So it was definitely a lot of fun. I also went out for a 6 mile walk this morning. That was wonderful and peaceful and lovely. I found I don't know. I keep sending the picture to people and saying that I found the perfect mushroom. If you do have Instagram, it'll probably be up there later. It was absolutely the coolest mushroom I think I've seen in my life. Not because it was colorful or anything, it was just absolutely shaped perfectly, pure white with these little nubbies all over it, probably deadly. Would not surprise me. Like, I don't eat mushrooms anyway, but it was the perfect, like, picture opportunity. And it was just on this background of beautiful moss and a couple of little pieces of grass. It was such a pretty mushroom. So I took a picture of it. And I went down a lot of roads that dead ended today. I was trying to find my way to a local lake that doesn't really have any roads that go to it. And I kept trying little roads, and I would get really close according to Google Maps, and then the road would just dead end in swamp. Now I think I know why there's no roads that go out to that lake. There is the nature trail. The nature trail goes by that lake, but I don't think there's any roads that go to it. Although I'm not 100% sure, because I swear I remember when I was a kid, my dad and I going out and fishing on that lake in a boat, which would have meant that we would have either had to pull the trailer with a boat, or maybe it was when my dad had a pickup truck so he could just put the boat in the back of it. I don't really remember, and I could be misremembering the lake, but I swear I remember fishing in that lake in a boat. Anyway, none of that has anything to do with why we are here though tonight. We are here to see how Kel is getting on after she basically has struck off on her own. She is not going to let her civilians who depended on her go to feed the Nothing Man's machines. And so she took off. She knows that it probably means that she will be tried for treason if she goes back, but it's worth it to her. And I commend her for that. That is a very, very, very hard decision to come to. Unbeknownst to her, there have been several other people, this little hair is driving me crazy, who have also come to the same decision. Not all of them because they feel the same sense of duty that Kel does to the civilians, but because they feel that same sense of duty that she feels to the people to Kel herself. You know, she was so worried about being the girl for so long, and so worried that she wasn't going to get her shield, and so worried that no one was going to be her friend, and it turns out she has a lot of them. So we're going to be jumping back in and doing a recap of chapter 13 of Lady Night by the wonderful Tamora Pierce. And chapter 13 is very aptly named Friends. So the chapter starts off with Kel kind of second guessing herself. You know, she's left, she knows what she's done, but she keeps seeing dead bodies on the side of the road. She keeps not seeing her civilians. She doesn't think that she's going to catch up. She feels like she failed her people not only one time, but she failed them twice. Once by not being there when the enemy had come, and once by trying to do this rescue by herself. And quoting, she realizes that maybe she's not by herself. How could she think that she was alone? After all, she had a horse, a flock of small birds, Jump, and 12 motley dogs, also 10 cats. This isn't a rescue, Kel whispered. It's a joke. She does contemplate maybe just turning back and telling Lord Wilden that she's come to her senses. She knows that he would probably let her off easy if she returns. He has to know that losing the people that depended on her could make anybody go a little bit mad, but you know, she's really thinking about it. She straightens up and she is about to maybe turn back to Fort Mastiff and throw herself at Lord Wilden's mercy when she sees another body. And this body doesn't look like a soldier's body. She goes and she checks it, and she discovers that it's one of her clerks from Haven. And you know, the Haven refugees, especially this woman, Hedora, she had fought, and she had fought hard. And Kel comes to her senses in a way towards going and doing the rescue. She's like, I can't even take the time to bury her because I've got to get to those who are still living. Knowledge struck her like a sudden ray of sunlight. What am I thinking, though? She asked herself. My people are trained with weapons, and they will fight if they think they have a chance. I didn't see any of Gil's squad among the dead, thought Kel, which means that they've also captured a squad of my convict soldiers. Mithros, even the children can fight. All Kel has to do is find them and get weapons into their hands. So, resolve strengthened, Kel mounts up. She gives a blessing to her dead civilian and moves on. You know, that would be really hard. It kind of reminds me of Harrier and Tercel in the Enduring Flame books that I'm reviewing. And to actually have to leave someone that you know who has passed away on the side of the road and keep on moving. Harrier and Tercel because it is the Centaur way, and Kel because she knows if she delays, then she's going to find more of her own dead on the side of the road. That would be really, really, really hard. Kel is not completely bereft, though. The dogs, being made much smarter by Dane, hunt for her. You know, they bring her a big old boar that they had drug in. Kel butchers off a piece for herself to roast by the fire and then distributes the rest amongst the dogs and the cats. The birds, since they're seed eaters, they ate grass all day. The dogs and cats also discover that Kel is perfectly willing to clean and gut anything that they bring her, so they are all quite well fed. And Kel decides that Hoshi, her horse, is still fresh enough. She's been making sure to not go at a full out gallop or anything. She walks the horse for a while and then she gets down and leads the horse, just trying to make sure to spare her. So she figures that they can probably keep doing that for a while. Kel walks through the night listening to the night sounds. They hear a wolf pack off in the distance howling. Kel comes around a corner and there's a doe and 2 fawns in the meadow. Thankfully, Kel's dogs don't go after the doe and 2 fawns. And Kel finally comes to Fort Giant Killer, which no one has rebuilt yet, and probably no one will rebuild in that exact same spot, because the Scarnans would probably think that there were ghosts there, and the Tortolans also kind of are worried it would be haunted. Kel figures that the restless dead that might be there, they know her. She murmurs a prayer, both in Yamini and in common tongue, and decides that that is where they're going to stay the night. She ties the mare Hoshi off to one side, removes her plate and chainmail, and finds a little saddle blanket for a cover, lays down, and instantly asleep. The next morning, the smell of cooking wakes Kel up. She immediately wakes up, gets her weapons together, goes and, splashes a little bit of water on her face, and goes to find out who is cooking in her sanctuary. She sneaks on down, and she does see that the sparrows are not acting upset. In fact, they're using the signals that she taught them to signal that it's friends. Kel looked out the window and scowled. She knew those horses picketed outside. Geldings and mares, their markings and colors were as familiar as peach blossoms or Hoshies. Hoshi actually stood with them, feeding from a bag that was marked with the blade and crown insignia of the king's own. Needless to say, Kel probably has a few moments of, oh gosh, I've been caught. And then she actually realizes who it is. She's a little miffed. She goes back to her little camp area, rinses off her mouth and teeth, and dunks her head into her water, and goes to see these soldiers who have showed up. And yep, Kel was right. She knew them all. The corporals Woolsett and Fulcher, and the one man that she knew had to be leading them, who she sees cooking strips of bacon, Sergeant Dom. Jump was sitting with him as he's cooking the bacon and is very intent on that bacon. Kel goes over and, quoting yet again, "What's going on here?" demanded Kel, her voice harsh. "Are you out of your minds?" "We wondered if we should wake you, but your breakfast isn't done yet." Dom handed one of the sticks of bacon to Corporal Woolsett and turned to look at her. "We figured that you could use as much sleep as you could get." One of the other men tells her, "We haven't gone mad. We're under orders. My Lord Raoul sent us to do whatever you say needs to be done." Kel tries to even lie to herself and not admit that she's happy to see them. She seizes on the point that Lord Raoul sent them, and she's like, "And you what, got here all the way from Fort Steadfast in a day?" Woolsett let her know that, no, we were actually at Fort Mastiff for something else, but, Lord Raoul heard that you were heading off to retake your people, and here we are. Kel tries to argue with them. She's like, "You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know about all the laws I'm breaking." And Dom's like, "Yeah, we do. Now, here, eat before it gets cold." And she begins to eat, and quoting again from Dom, "Dom waited until her mouth was full before he produced his final bribe. He held up the roll of maps. Besides, you don't get these unless we come." "And don't forget the purse my lord gave us for the bribes," said Corporal Woolsett. "That's blackmail," said Kel through a thick piece of bacon. "Actually, it's extortion." That was said by Lofren, whose father was a magistrate. And that did kind of makes me smile. It seems like in any group there is always one person who's very pedantic, and evidently that is Lofren, who goes on to define the difference between extortion and blackmail. Now he gets shouted down, and Kel she's resigned. And she is happy to see them because now there is a chance, and a better chance, that she can actually rescue her refugees. So they are getting everything saddled and getting ready to head out. They're going to follow Kel wherever she's leading anyway, when Hoshi, Kel's horse, begins rearing and whinnying. Kel's like, "Oh great, now what?" She hears two more horses that are outside of the gates answering with loud whinnying, and the sparrows start circling in the way that means friends yet again. Kel is a little bit miffed, but she pulls out her spyglass, looks, and She recognizes the horse and its tiny rider. And then she recognizes the other horse and starts cussing. She's like, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him dead and I'm gonna leave him for the border ghosts. Dom's like, we're losing daylight if you stop to kill him now. And besides, isn't it good to see Peach Blossom? In a fight, he would be just as good as an entire squad, which Kel can't deny. She would like to deny the fact that Owen, who is not even yet a knight, just a squire, is the one who is coming along with her servant and friend Tobe. She does understand why Tobe wants to come, and Owen says that he refuses to go home. But yeah, she understands Tobe's determination. He's got friends amongst the refugees, and according to him, if he takes his eyes off Kel, she's going to vanish. She can't deny him the right to come, but Owen coming, that really upsets her. You know, she knows that he wants to be a knight, and as far as Kel's concerned, he is throwing away the chance to ever be a knight. And Owen's like, oh, well, I just had to come and at least let you know about what Lord Wilden, or why Lord Wilden did not get your refugees back. Because, of course, Owen was eavesdropping. Kel's like, you shouldn't be telling me this. And Owen says, but you have to know, replied Kel's friend, his voice and eyes intent. I know that you didn't understand why my lord turned his back on all those civilians. Well, King Magar wants to cross with 1,000 men 2 miles downriver from Fort Mastiff. My lord and Lord Raoul and General Vanget are smuggling companies and mages into the fort before the enemy comes. Kel, it must have killed him to refuse to save your people, which is why I had to come and tell you. Owen settled in the saddle. I think that he knew I was coming. He didn't say anything, but... Kel shook her head. Let Owen believe that Lord Wilden had guessed what he planned, if that made him feel better. But at least now she knew why Lord Wilden had apparently turned his back on her civilians. He had a much bigger headache to deal with. So with a little bit of understanding and the knowledge that Owen is not going to leave and, you know, he is his own man. He's not a child anymore. And even if he was, he wouldn't be able to make it back on his own. They move on. So they're going along. Kel is like, what do you want me to do? To Dom. And he's like, this is your party, not mine. Kel thinks that they'll have to maybe debate this later, but she signals everyone to hide because they actually hear a patrol coming. Kel is surprised that her friends could hide so thoroughly, and yes, indeed, they totally do, because they came definitely prepared to not be seen by the enemy. Their pants and their shirts help them blend into the background, and all of the horses that they're riding are in colors that are natural colors that kind of fade into the trees. So, not too bad. They watch the patrol go by, and it was exactly what Kel had guessed it would be. Just a squad, soldiers, and a knight. And it's a knight that she actually knows. It is Quindon, one of her year mates. She thinks that maybe they should have scouts out in the woods, because if they were Scarnans, that patrol that Kel is seeing would be dead in moments. She does have to bite back the urge to go and tell Sir Quindon that if she were the enemy, he'd be dead already. But she can't really afford to do that because then he would have to arrest her, and she just didn't have time to deal with that. Once the patrol, which thankfully was a friendly patrol, is out of the way, Kel signals her men to move out. Kel is riding. Tobe is also riding Peach Blossom. Kel was still riding Hoshi since Hoshi had a night's rest, and Tobe, who weighs almost nothing, is on Peach Blossom. Kel asks Tobe what is wrong, and even Tobe realizes that if they would have been the enemy, then the patrol that they just saw go by would have been dead. Kel had to smile at that because she's like, great. What kind of a world are we in where little boys understand the tactics of war? But not too far down the road from that, they hear more possible patrols coming their way. And all of a sudden, the birds are signaling yet again. More friends. Kel recognizes who is coming up the road. It's Neil, Merrick, Seaver, Esmond, Connacht, Sergeant Connacht, Sergeant Connacht's squad, and the 6 remaining convict soldiers from Haven. She rides up to them and she's like, excuse me, no, you're needed at Fort Mastiff. Seaver tells her, no, you need us more. Kel retorts, and I am quoting, I have warriors, and my people can defend themselves if I give them weapons. You have an oath to the crown. Kel shouted that, tested finally beyond the limits of her patience. This is treason, you sapskulls. You can't just decide when you are in service to the realm and when you're not. Like you have, Neil said sweetly. The young knights all halted in front of Kel. This is different, said Kel. Of course it is, Phaleron told her, leaning on his saddle horn. That's why we're here. Kel scrambled for another argument, any argument that she could use. She looked over at the white-faced, swaying Merrick. He should still be in bed. You had to tie him on his horse to get him this far. Merrick smiled. But I'm really well tied, he said, in a tone of utmost reason, and I slept most of the way here. Owen comes up behind her and is like, why are you so worried about? This is going to be a jolly good crew for a jolly good scramble. And Kel gathered her breath. She gathers her wits to fight and gives up. They had made their choice, the same choice that she had. She was going to have to do their best to make sure that they all make it home alive, assuming they have a home to get to. Dom comes up and greets his cousin Neil with, "Hey, Sir Meathead." Everybody is quite pleased to see Dom and his squad, and, quoting again, Kel fumed. I never asked for help. I never wanted to ruin anyone's life but my own, she thought. What's the matter with them? Can't they see that we'll die if this goes wrong? Don't they care that they have earned a warm and lasting reception on Trader's Hill if we choose to return? Why do men always complicate things? The soldiers and her friends all notice that she is just kind of off to one side, fuming. Owen lets everybody know that she'll be fine. She just needs a little bit of time to cool off. Kel thinks that what she really needs is a barrel full of dream rose to dose them all with, and then she could, just get it so far ahead of them that they'd never find her. And then she thinks maybe it's probably for the best that they're all with her. They do set out again, back on the trail. A little ways down the road, Kel finds another piece of gaudy red yarn and picks it up, and she realizes that some of her refugees are taking apart Nietzsche's doll and leaving signs for Kel or whoever is coming after them. Kel puts the yarn in her pouch And that's when she really starts thinking that maybe having everybody around isn't so bad. After all, if the Haven folk are making it easy for us to follow, then they deserve a proper rescue. She looks back over her shoulder at the 2 columns of people who are now behind her and thinks, and at least I have a better chance of saving them than I did when I was all by myself. And that is where the chapter ends, with Kel realizing that A, she can't really do everything on her own, which is kind of where I think that she differs the most from my favorite character, Becca. Becca would try to do it by herself. She would kick herself for it, and she wouldn't have been totally alone because she usually had her hound Dachu, but Kel is maybe a little bit wiser. Although Kel was completely willing to try to do this rescue on her own, but she does realize that maybe now she's got a better chance of pulling it off. And it's not like she was wrong. It's obvious that at least a couple of the people in the refugees, now prisoners, are resisting just because otherwise we wouldn't have found the woman on the side of the road. And they know that they're being followed. They know that somebody is going to try to rescue them. They might not think it's going to be official, but they all do have a lot of faith in Kel. Speaking of people who have a lot of faith in Kel, her friends have a lot of faith in Kel, and it's not misplaced, which makes it even nicer. So yeah, that is where we're going to leave it, though, with Kel leaving the fort with 10 dogs, 10 cats, 13 dogs, and a flock of sparrows, bound and determined to make her way all by herself, and now leading 2 squads, basically, of men on a rescue mission behind enemy lines, which is where we will go when I see you next.